was the thinking behind the decision to roll out the boosters to those in their 40s, when we know that the likes of Sarah Gilbert, who helped create the AstraZeneca jab, says that actually she doesn't believe that boosters are needed for the vast majority of the population in the UK?
So we have access to extensive NHS data that tells us who's being hospitalized in real time. And obviously, this enables you in real time to guide your vaccine policy. And what we've been observing recently is that, as you're aware, hospitalizations are still reasonably high for COVID. Most of the people in hospital are unvaccinated, but there is a small fraction that are fully vaccinated, and this includes people who are in the under 50 group. Now, although that's a very small fraction, we are watching it in real time gradually increasing. And, in many ways, was expected anyway, because all vaccines ultimately will wane in their efficacy. And this is an entirely new infectious disease. Most of us were naive to it immunologically 1.5 years ago. So we're expecting people to build up their immunity very quickly with this vaccine. It doesn't happen. Vaccines do wane.
Okay.
So that, together with our data showing that people's antibody levels can drop from starting from about 6 months onwards, leads us to conclude that we'd better start planning to boost those 40 to 50-year-olds, the ones that have been double vaccinated, commencing soon. So that's really
even
the
though,
thinking.
I mean, 49 out of 50 people who have died in this country have been over 60. This is a disease that the single biggest risk factor is being old.
You are right.
And then major underlying health conditions, and then obesity. But being old is the number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. It's the hugest one. So even if antibody levels do drop in everybody, am I right in thinking that we are not seeing necessarily waning protection from getting seriously ill and dying, but the main waning protection is from getting COVID itself? Is that correct?
Well, that is the same waning, applies to your ability to become infected and therefore transmit. You're absolutely right. But remember, the aim of our vaccine program has been to prevent as much hospitalization as we possibly can. And in that regard, we've succeeded to a degree. Remember that statistics can be very misleading. It says that it's a drop of 1 or 2%, and that doesn't seem, like an awful lot. But unfortunately, in terms of numbers of people coming into hospital, actually, it's quite large. So a 10% drop in the efficacy, more than 10% efficacy, as we've seen with the AstraZeneca vaccine, really converts into a huge number of people coming into hospitalization. And the same paradox is true with younger people. You're quite right. The main burden of hospitalization is in the older people, but even a small percentage change in efficacy in 40 to 50-year-olds translates into quite a large number of people actually needing to come into hospital when they don't need to. And so we're just going to try and increase the resilience within this age band by offering them a booster.
Okay. But again, the thing is, offering a booster is very different from what the Prime Minister said yesterday in the press conference later on, where he was talking about how the definition of being double jabbed, of being fully jabbed, would no longer be being double jabbed. It would be having your booster as well, and therefore it would have a difference for vaccine passports. That will have an implication for those people in parts of the UK, like Wales and Scotland, where they don't have full freedom if they're not double jabbed, and of course travelling abroad and returning from abroad as well. There are huge implications where people like me who've had COVID, who are healthy in their early 50s, and who've been double jabbed, who I would otherwise not be thinking of getting the booster jab. I was thinking I might get my antibodies tested to see where I am, but I'm very much in two minds about it. But when there is a threat that, well, actually, you're not going to be able to travel anymore without quarantine, and we're going to limit your freedoms, that's not offering people a booster jab. Do you and does the JCVI have concerns about effectively the mandating, the blackmailing, the threatening aspect of this, as opposed to giving people the full information and letting people make a decision based on their own personal level of risk and their own personal concerns?
Well, let me say at the outset that I completely agree with the spirit and the direction of travel of your argument. So, I mean, nobody likes mandatory vaccination at all. JCVI wants people to want to be vaccinated, and aside from very special circumstances, we, you know, other members of JCVI, like myself, don't believe that vaccination should be mandatory.